podcast where we talk about gender and representation on stage.
I'm Pippa.
And I'm Beth.
And we're your hosts. So this month we bring you the first of a series of episodes where we cover the Edinburgh Fringe 2019.
Yay! So this is the first of many episodes, and we also, for you today, have two guests with a show each.
What? Two for the price of one, honey.
You're so lucky.
So we have a lot to get through this episode. So we are going to dive straight in. We hope you enjoy listening to both Mika and Teddy, both fronting shows produced by the Queer House. It's a double bill. It's fantastic. Their posters are also extra amazing if you've seen them around. And we're so lucky to have a chat with them. So we will pass over to Pippa and Beth and Mike and Teddy there. Enjoy.
Hello. We are here in Pippa's room today. This is the first time we've recorded a podcast from this particular room.
Yeah, that's true. We did my last place.
Yeah.
Now
New
in the new
house.
place. Yeah.
In Woolwich, Greenwich.
Christening it.
Lovely. Yes, very nice. And we are christening this new recording spot with two fabulous guests, Mika and Teddy. Would you like to introduce yourselves, please?
I guess I'm going first. Hi, I'm Teddy. I'm Teddy Lamb. My pronouns are they, them. I am a playwright and theatre maker, and I'm here to talk about my new play Since You've Been Gone.
My name's Mika Johnson. My pronouns are they, them, and I am the writer and performer of my show Pink Lemonade.
Yay!
Tense.
That's the hardest part.
You remembered your lines.
Over. Yeah.
Good job. Okay, so
we have both seen your shows because you've just finished your previews here in London at the Gate Theatre, and you were both heading up to the Edinburgh Fringe.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's all happening.
It's getting really soon.
Yeah, it's funny how it comes around, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so we'd love to talk to you both about your shows, about how they came to be made, and your journey up until this point. To our listeners, FYI, we are recording in the midst of the heat wave, and we all have fans. So should we all do a communal swap?
Yeah.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. There we
Flap,
go.
flap.
Oh,
So
I
you might
can-
hear us fanning ourselves.
Mika doesn't have.
I don't have the.
You,
Micah.
yeah.
Just
you're
an
not a French
intro,
pop star,
Teddy.
I'm sorry.
It's fine. I forgive you.
How long have you known each
I
other?
know.
Too long.
So, we are going to be flapping, and we will not apologise for
Yes.
it
No.
for our fans.
No apologising for the flaps.
Okay, and the reason we have these two lovely guests on together is because they are doing they're taking one show each up to the Edinburgh Fringe, and they're performing those shows as is it a double bill?
Yeah, I think we're calling it a double bill, aren't
Yeah, it's a double bill.
And how does that work?
We are alternating days, so both of us are performing every other day. So we get a day off every other day,
Yeah.
and we get some time to relax and to support each other and to look after ourselves, which is rare in Edinburgh.
Yeah, it feels very radical.
Yeah, I think that
very,
was
very cool.
It was
It's
a
a good idea.
suggestion by the Queer House, who are our agents and producing the show as well, and I think they're just aware of how emotive the shows are for us, how both of us are sort of not relying on past trauma, but sort of talking about trauma, and it's a way to protect ourselves, basically, and they have been very supportive in trying to help us protect ourselves.
Yeah, they have. Yeah. I think the Queer House kind of approached HighTide with the idea, and they were really into it, so you're getting both of us, which is...
So it's a co-production between HighTide, who's a theatre company, and Queer House, who are both your agents and producers as well.
Yes.
It's run by Charlotte and Yasmin. I met Charlotte and Yas last year, just before I moved to London, because I'm from Nottingham, so I've only been here just over a year. So I think I came down to London one night, and they were at a Babes event, and I was there as well. And then a friend of mine introduced us, and then they were talking about how they were going to start this like, you know, queer organisation and give a platform to like queer artists. And that's kind of how we started kind of having conversations. And then Charlotte, like as I started to develop Pink Lemonade, Charlotte kind of came on board as my producer at that point. So that would have been like the end of like, that was like last January. So it's been like over a year. Yeah.
So you've been there from the beginning?
Literally from when like
idea.
they first, yeah. And now they're just like growing and growing and growing. Like they're doing amazing things, giving platforms to queer and trans artists. Like it's really, really important.
Yeah, they are they're the nicest people, which helps. And like the idea itself is such a simple one. Like it's bizarre when I think that they are the first people to have done this, when it's so important, and just the sort of work that they get for their artists is incredible as well. Like it shows the demand for it and the need for it. Like they've had people in like massive TV series and in shows at like National Theatre of Scotland, and like the demand is there, and their whole ethos is making sure that these queer roles and these trans roles are played by queer and trans actors, and to show that there is the talent there, and that casting directors or theatres just weren't necessarily looking hard enough for it, or they just didn't know where to look. So now that there is this one organisation where not all of us but a lot of us are, then it's a lot easier to direct the attention towards people.
Yeah, they just care, like they just care and they're passionate, you know. So it's like and also it's like it's a safe space. Like, you know, I don't feel uncomfortable, I don't feel on edge, I'm supported, and you know, kind of like friendship has kind of grown out of this kind of professional relationship, I guess.
Well, because we met at the very first
Get in the
House night.
Yeah.
So Queer House also run a night called Get in the House, which is to platform queer voices making their own work. So it's Queer House artists who are creating solo shows or writing TV scripts or anything like that, and you get paid to do it, and they invite casting directors and theatres and venues, and like essentially whoever is going to be most useful to whatever you're doing. So if you're writing a TV script, then they'll invite some TV people, and we met at the very first one. Both of us performed, and I remember just sitting, I was going to call it backstage. It wasn't. It was a sofa next to the stage because it was in a tiny bar.
Yeah, in a bar.
We just saw each other's work, and I remember just being like, they're really cool.
Yeah.
I want to be friends with them.
Yeah.
Can I be friends with them, please?
And here we are.
We're
together at last.
guys.
Yeah, and I think we both performed parts that are obviously in the shows now.
Yeah, we both were starting the development of our shows at that point.
Yeah.
Speaking of your shows, could you give us, and for the listeners, a description of how you best like to describe your show and what you want audiences to know about your show when they come see?
Yeah, so Pink Lemonade, I guess ultimately it's about growing from past relationships and embracing yourself, accepting yourself. And for my character, it's also about them navigating masculinity and them trying to like, you know, reclaim it for themselves. They're trying to like kind of come at it from a place of that isn't toxic. And I feel like, you know, that's definitely part of me. Like I definitely feel like now masculinity is definitely something that I'm still trying to like navigate and kind of reimagine for myself and you know, change the way that looks. I feel like within society in general, that's something that we all kind of need to kind of reframe. So yeah, that's kind of what it's about really. It's got elements of like, you know, I guess it's exploring problematic issues, but it also has like a real vibe to it. Like I feel like it has this sexiness to it. It has a lot of humour.
That's really hot.
Yeah, so yeah, that's kind of, I guess, what it's about in a nutshell. Yeah.
Great.
Since You've Been Gone is sort of similar about growing from relationships, but from friendship. So it's about, it's essentially a letter to my best friend who I lost to depression a few years ago, and everything that I learnt about femininity and friendship and support through her and through that and through the experiences that we had growing up together in our friendship group. And it's funnier than it sounds.
No, it is.
Can attest it's very
Yeah.
funny. Lots of pop culture references.
Yeah,
I love all the Tyra.
Yeah, there's a lot of America's Next Top Model.
Yeah.
Jordan watched a lot of it. I had to do a crash course.
Oh, so you didn't watch
So
as much of it?
it was her favourite show.
Right.
I watched it with her, but then it wasn't. It was definitely her language and her everything that was about her that I had to fit into the show to create, and I did. I wasn't quite as into it as she was, but I think I definitely am now.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's really cool. So your show is like definitely autobiographical, Teddy. It's like,
Yes.
this is me, this
Yeah.
is my story, this is my real friend,
Yeah.
this is what really happened.
Yeah.
Micah, is yours in any way autobiographical? How much of it is a character?
Yeah, it is. It is. Yes. I also feel like what I'm kind of learning though through the process of writing and creating like work that is based on my own experiences is that I don't have to put every single little detail of my life into the work to a T. Like the time, the location, etc. I changed names. But also people that know me, like that have come to see the show, that know about some of the situations that I'm kind of like exploring in the show, are like, raw. Like I actually know who you're talking about. Like I know the situation, and I guess like the characters in the show. I mean, there is actually a part where I actually use my mum's voice. So. That is like legit my mum's voice, and she has seen sharings of it previously, and I know that she's kind of cringing at that, but it has like I don't know, I feel like it has a real authentic, that part is very personal, but a lot of the characters, I think a lot of people will know those people, like it's like a universal thing. And I think that's where a lot of the humour probably comes in, as well as it being like, this is not okay. So yeah, it is autobiographical.
And
Yeah, there's a lot of recognisable characters there. Like even sort of not knowing you and not knowing those specific characters, I was like, oh yes, I've met that person. I feel like I know them.
We all know them.
Yeah. So you've both delved into your own memories and your own experiences to create these shows. What was it like when you first started doing that? How did you make that first decision that, like, I'm going to look back at my life and turn that into a
And Teddy, you've made
performance?
previous work before as well.
So this is my third show, but it's my first show that's autobiographical or anything to do with like myself or really my queerness. So that was a very specific decision that I wanted to make. I've been making work for the past few years with a company called Holly and Ted, which is with my best friend Holly, who is a cis straight woman, and I loved that work and I loved making that work, but there was a part of me that was always like, I want to explore my own queerness and explore my gender and explore my narrative on stage, and that's something that I can't do with you because that's not your experience, and that's totally fine. And she has been so supportive, and she came to the first night and like sat on the front row and cried the entire way through. Aww. It was really cute. And she's actually, like, I talk about her in this show. But it started, I didn't start writing this as a play, it did literally start. The first line of the show is 4:10 a.m. New Year's Day. I'm writing this now because you're not here. And that was literally 4:10 a.m. in 2017, the first year that I was going to live through without Jordan. It was a letter that I couldn't sleep and I wanted to just talk to her. And then through that, I just kept writing, and I sort of wrote a duologue. So I wrote a conversation between me and Jordan, which I then developed through Soho Theatre Writers Lab for a bit. And then I was picked up by LGBTQ Arts Review. They did a Raising Your Voices thing for queer and trans artists, and I worked through that, and that was still a duologue then, and I did that at CPT. And then Queer House came on board and were like, why are you talking to yourself? You need to tell people, don't have a conversation with yourself, don't. And that's how it became a solo show and developed it through. And it wasn't necessarily a choice initially to turn it into a play. It just sort of happened because I'm a theatre nerd and that's my vocabulary, really. And then, yeah, I don't really know how it happened after that. It just sort of snowballed, didn't it?
Yeah.
We were both there at the Queer House night just being like, oh yeah, we're going to try this, see what happens. And then Queer House liked both of our stuff,
Yeah.
and they kind of ran with it. Basically,
Yeah.
I feel like they've done most of the work for me anyway.
Yeah, well, mine was like, I come from like a devising background. Like, I used to go to like a young actors company in Nottingham, in an area called Hyson Green, and a lot of the kids that would go there were like black and brown kids, a lot of working class youth, and basically there was she's an amazing artist, Rachel Young. She'll probably cuss me for bringing her up. Never mind. She was like a young person's like participation officer there, like years and years ago, and she's amazing. And we used to devise like shows there, like based off the art that was in the gallery where we would have the sessions. So when I mean, this is my first ever piece of writing, and my first show, and I kind of started off. The first thing I made actually was the movement sequence that is me performing masculinity right at the beginning of the play. That's the first thing I developed, and I developed it with Tallowa Theatre Company, because they have a program called Studio Firsts, and they gave me space for a week, and they were amazing. And I just kind of had these ideas about how I wanted to also talk about queerness, but I didn't know like where to kind of start with it. And then I just kind of, I guess I was kind of thinking about my own self and like my masculinity. And it's funny because like through the development of the show, like I have also developed, like also like as a person. So when I first started writing Pink Lemonade, I wasn't identifying as trans. And I think through the development, and I think everything was already in the work, but I didn't see it until later on, and things kind of became like real for me, and I was like, no, this is who I am, this is who I've always been. And so some of that is like implemented into the work, into the poetry, like the beginning and at the end, and I guess it's there throughout the whole thing, but I just didn't realise that I was already writing that, but it was there. So yeah, that's kind of where what happened. It was like elements of poetry and movement to start off with. There was no story. It was just these little things, little elements. And then I think somebody said to me, like, have you thought about writing like just candidly, like a monologue, like bringing what is the story? And I'm like, I don't know if I can do that. And then I just started writing. And then it gets drafted and redrafted and redrafted. And nah, it's a full bloody show. It's madness. But yeah, that's basically what happened.
What's also interesting is that you're doing this solo work, but you also have like a team and directors, which is amazing. And I wondered if you could talk about your relationship with doing something so personal that is only your experience, but also having a team around you and, specifically having a director work with you. How have you found that?
It's funny because I literally just up until this last process of rehearsing and having this final script ready, I didn't have a director. I had outside eye, and people would come in the space and give me feedback. So but Emily Abood, who has directed Pink Lemonade and who is like amazing, like she's so enthusiastic and and she's queer too, so she felt so connected to the work, which was really important for me. And she saw a sharing of it like last summer. I did Tallowa Firsts and shared 20 minutes at Rich Mix, and she saw it there and loved it. So she's come on later on in the process, but like she's like really like transformed it. And I think the main thing is like everyone's been so supportive, because everyone knows that we're both like making really personal work. And it's hard, like you're in a vulnerable position, but everyone cares and everyone's there for you. So I feel like I've had a really positive experience. I feel very supported. Yeah.
Did you reach out looking for a director and put a call out, and then Emily responded?
Yeah, we I was going to work with a director before Emily, like months and months ago, but that fell through. And then we kind of like went out again to like find people. And then I just sat down with Emily and we just had a conversation, and I really loved her energy. Like she's great. She really is. She's very talented. Yeah.
I think both of us were looking for directors who would have an understanding of elements of the work. So both of us have got queer directors. My director is a cis guy, but he lived in a similar area to where me and Jordan grew up. So my director is Billy Barrett, who's part of Breach, and he went to Warwick Uni, and me and Jordan grew up in Warwickshire, so there was a lot of different connections, and like the clubs that I talk about going to, like Billy went to when he was at uni, and so there were all of these different little parallels that we would sort of discover and discuss. And I think it was really important to both of us when we were looking for directors that we were supporting other queer artists, and that we were making sure that we would have people in the room who would understand and be able to like empathise with what we were going through, but also that we were like giving them a platform for their work as well, because they're incredibly talented artists. Like,
it's important.
Emily's work is insane and Billy's work is brilliant, and we wanted to be able to make sure that we were platforming queer artists in every capacity.
Yeah, and I think for me as well, because me being black as well, and me exploring like this part of my culture, like Caribbean culture, Jamaican culture specifically. Emily is from Trinidad, so also like she kind of had this understanding of like certain elements of the show, certain topics that I'm exploring when it comes to race and like the music and like, you know, all this problematic stuff. So I also needed that to some extent as well, because you know, as queer and trans people and artists, like we're all multifaceted. I feel like sometimes people try and like they just assume there's only one way to be that.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
completely.
well, no, because there are so many things that make up a person, so many things that intersect. You know, we're all from different places.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's really great that there's two trans artists that are completely different people, but even though there are topics within our show that kind of like are similar, it's like two completely different voices.
Yeah, we have completely different experiences of a similar thing. Like we both use the same pronoun, but we both explore gender in completely opposite ways, and we both explore that on stage in completely opposite ways. And I think that's something that's really nice about the double bill, is that if you come and see both of them, you're getting two completely different trans experiences that are told like truthfully and honestly, and will give you like completely different parts of the spectrum.
Yeah.
And quite different styles of theatre as well.
Yeah, very different.
You know, obviously you're both kind of doing solo autobiographical, although Teddy, you have someone else on stage as well, you're a amazing sound person. But you're both doing the kind of solo autobiographical material and showcasing really well that there's not just one way of doing that.
Yeah.
In terms of there's so many different tools that you both use to tell those stories. So you mentioned music, Mika, and dance and poetry. Teddy's
just like
culture. The movement's incredible.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that you started with that, because it's so amazing. It's so amazing.
I'm floored after the show. I'm like, why do I do this to myself?
So we don't need to go to the gym because you're like, doing this amazing moves. Yeah,
it's a lot.
It's awesome. So yeah, but you both do such different things with all of the different elements that you include in your shows.
Yeah.
Teddy, I wonder if you could talk actually a bit about the musician that you have with you on stage, who they are, how that started working.
Yeah, so Nicole is an incredible noisemaker, musician, sound designer, multifaceted, fabulous queer femme person who I am now just obsessed with. I love them so much. They are just the kindest and gentlest and sweetest person.
Their energy, just like from the beginning when you come into the room and then they're on stage, and just like, they just have such a warm, beautiful energy.
And they brought that to the rehearsal room. So everything that we were going through, when I was attempting to relive traumatic memories in a safe way, like they were just constantly there, like just being soft and gentle and lovely, and like whenever we're not doing anything, they put on freestyle jazz and they like just bop away, and I'm so obsessed with them.
Did you know them before?
Not really, no. So we have a lot of mutual friends we've since learnt, but I was working with another musician initially when I was scratching it, who was incredible, but then got a job with Greenpeace, so like fair play, go save the world. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to find someone else who can understand this and go through this, because they were also a non-binary queer musician who wanted to get into theatre, and we did a call out for queer musicians, and Nicole responded, and as soon as they walked into the, I don't want to call it the audition room because it wasn't really an audition, we sort of chatted, and then I shouted some Tyra at them whilst they just improvised.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
But they're just fantastic, and they get it, and they understand it so much. Like, they have similar experiences with gender, and they express their gender in not the same way but in similar ways, and I couldn't imagine doing the show without them now. Like, every time I like look at them on stage, I'm like, okay, cool, you're here, I got this, I can do this now.
I love how they had like their own score, but then every now and then I'd be like, wait, I know that refrain.
Yeah.
And there'd be like a little bit of like Ariana Grande.
Yeah,
or
so
something.
everything that they play everything live on stage. They create and they've created all of the music, and a lot of it is played live on the guitar or on these like weird instrument things that they've got. I should know what they're called, but I don't. But then there's also all of these different tracks that they've created by pulling references that are in the script, and that we spent hours talking about like what music I listened to, what music Jordan listened to, what was in the charts at this exact day in 2007, what was playing in that cafe at that point, but then also how memory affects music and how non-specific that can be, and how you can use music to create a sort of nostalgic feeling, but then twist it, and so quite often we're using the same track and then they just throw an effect on it and it just completely changes it, and they're just a genius, basically. I'm obsessed with them.
Yeah, I feel like you both kind of mentioned about kind of going back to what you said earlier a bit, but going back into memory and kind of like excavating all that kind of stuff. How do you kind of take care of yourself in that process? Do you have any kind of rules in terms of there's a distance you have to work at the same time, especially to do with gender? I can imagine that there's not an end process to that, you know. How do you kind of look after yourselves in the making and in the showing?
I feel like it's really hard. Like for me, I feel like with my show, because a lot of it there's a lot of humour in it. It's kind of like, I feel like you probably leave the theatre and then be like, that was funny, but oh wait, that was really bad, like afterwards. And I think for me, because it's been such a long process, like writing the show, and my head has just been like, okay, I want the show to be at this level. It hasn't really sunk in, and it didn't sink in like how actually emotional it is for me until we did a dress run last week, and I got to like the end of the show, did the last monologue, and then I was just like, oh no, and then I just felt like so overwhelmed with emotion, and then I just started crying, and then the last poem I just couldn't do it because I was just like, I literally can't
oh my
do
God,
this poem right now. And then I think in that moment it really slapped me in the face, and I was like, oh, this is like my life, like to some extent, like to a lot of extent. Like and I think you kind of, you know, you mask it with the humor, or because you don't want to feel like, I guess when we have to find the humor in all the problematic crap in our lives. I don't want to swear because I don't know if I'm allowed to, but
Oh, yeah.
okay. But yeah, it just hit me like in the dress run, and I was like, wow. But you know, a lot of people have said to me, like I was saying earlier, like when you're writing, like trying to bring in elements, like part writing that may not be that exact location, that exact time, things like that. But also I just think it's difficult because you are kind of like performing that, like, you know, every night, well, every other night for me and you, but it's still intense. I just feel like you just got to take time for yourself. You've got to like have your mind right. I mean, I've started going back to the gym, which really helps me, to be honest, my mindset, like just how I feel about my own self and stuff. Yeah, I feel like buzzword self-care, like it's different for different people, but it is hard. I think everyone deals with it, copes with it in different ways.
Yeah, I think it's finding out what works for you and what makes you feel safe. So my show has like quite a lot of moments of like sadness, but then it ends on a lighter note. Like it ends on what I hope is a more positive note about moving forward and about learning and growing. So I try to sort of stay with that journey. So there are moments where it gets quite dark, but I know that in the next scene I've got this big joke that everyone's going to laugh at, and I know that energy is going to lift me, and I know that I'm going to end the show. I end the show looking at a photo of my best friend. And yeah, she's not here, but she's my best fucking friend. And I have made this show in a testament to her, dedicated to her, about her, inspired by her, and I know that she would be so fucking proud. And that's sort of what I'm at by the end of the show. I'm there being like, I love you, you are bloody great. And that's sort of the energy I try to leave the space with, in that sort of, I've got through it, I've done it, that's the hard stuff, and now let's see what happens next. But in the making of it, it was hard. Like, it's constantly being aware that I keep saying like reliving trauma, and that's what I'm attempting not to do on stage, because that's just not healthy or sustainable.
Yeah.
But because it's autobiographical, you have to work out how much you can share and how much you want to share, and then how much you can safely share as well, and what I can do every night without then going home and crying all night. Like, it's actually quite cathartic to have a little cry, but I don't want to get to the point where I'm like blubbering and can't leave the room. So it's just working out those boundaries within myself and within the relationship with Nicole on stage and the relationship with the audience. So yeah, it's constantly evolving and changing, and I think Edinburgh will be a whole new challenge because it's just really intense.
And each night is going to be different.
Yeah, and there's going to be...
Energy is going to might feel different on different nights.
Yeah, and the only times I've done the full show have been these previews at the gate with a really queer audience. Like, a super lovely, super supportive, super queer audience who get it. And that is not necessarily going to be the case in Edinburgh. So I think that's going to be interesting. Like, if I'm having to perform it to people who just don't get it, that might make it harder. But it's a learning curve, and luckily we have each other. We like have little WhatsApps that we just send back and forth to check in with each other, and we've got our whole team. Like we said, we're an entirely queer team, and we're all staying together in the same house in Edinburgh, so we can all look out for each other and cook for each other and run each other baths.
Amazing. That's great.
Yeah.
So it's your first Edinburgh, Mika?
Yeah, it's my first Edinburgh,
How are you feeling about it?
I feel like everyone's probably made you terrified.
No, like, they really have. Like, everyone's like, oh, it's your first time? Like, yeah, like,
That's the face.
Be careful.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, I've had some people have said, you're going to have an amazing time. It's really quite bizarre. Like, you'll be really overwhelmed with like how much is going on, and but also like, just look after yourself. Everyone keeps saying that, like, look after yourself. I'm like, cool. Like, you're making this feel like it's.
There's gonna be. You're gonna have fun as well. Don't worry.
It is.
Fresh air is really nice up there.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's not going to be this hot there.
after Satan's wrath this week, I'm looking forward to some coolness.
Cooler. Yeah, one can hope.
Yeah.
Could do Arthur's Seat, which I still have never done.
I've never done it either.
Have you never done
No.
it? I've never done
We
it.
should go and just like plant a big
queer
queer
flag.
flag. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
we should.
That'd be really cute.
Just a big hill.
But walk up.
I think because people kind of in Edinburgh, there's a tendency to sort of stay within the like the little zones of the fringe. Yeah, exactly. The same buildings every day, and in the middle of the city where there's loads and loads of people. So I think a thing that lots of people try and do at least once in the month is to like walk up a hill. Surrounded by like nature, but then there's loads of other festival goers all going up the big hill looking out for each other. So yeah, we've never done it because we're always
buried in our own.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the beach this year.
Oh yeah.
Because we've got every other day off. I feel like, I mean, don't let
Not with
Queer
each
House
other
listen to
though,
this.
'cause
We can't go to the beach
No,
together, I'm sorry.
fine.
Yeah, don't let Queer House hear this when I say I've got every other day off. No, I'm flying. I promise you, I promise I'm flying all the time. But I feel like this year, I might have a slight amount more time to be able to go to the beach, maybe.
Yeah.
And do you know if the Queer House, have there been any conversations with the venue, for instance, that you're in about the themes of your work, and particularly with being trans and inclusive? Because I know that when Milk Presents, for instance, which is a trans theatre company tour, they have really big kind of training for the venues they go in to make sure there's certain like stipulations in place. I wonder if you could talk about.
Yeah, so we are really lucky. So as we said, we're co-produced by HighTide, and HighTide have got the entire of Assembly Roxy to themselves. So they program the whole building. So we have been from the very beginning having conversations about making sure that we have gendered bathrooms, making sure that everyone's pronouns are respected, making sure that all announcements are ungendered. And Assembly have been really supportive of all of that. Assembly they're hosting the queer meetup for us this year, so they're really, they've been really great, and HighTide have been really great, and that's part of what Queer House do. So part of having them as your agent, even if they're not producing your show, they have essentially like a pack. I don't know if it is an actual pack or if they just have a conversation, but they speak to everyone who, whether you're the director who's hiring an actor or a casting director, to just explain who each individual artist is and how to treat them and how to be respectful, and like just the basics that certain cis people don't even think about. And that's why it's so important to me to have queer representation. Like they understand it and they can get there ahead of it, and I don't even have to think about it. Like they've got a flyering schedule for us already, making sure that none of us are ever on our own just in case we get any shit, making sure that there's always someone, like we're always in groups when we're flyering, so that if there's any transphobic abuse or anything, we're always with someone. They're going to know exactly where we are, and they can check in on us, and they'll be out flyering with us as well, and I feel very protected by them, which is really important.
Yeah, it is.
That's amazing.
Also, before I forget, Fringe of Colour, they have like an amazing like scheme set up for Cutie Pock audience participation. If anyone is Cutie Pock and they are hearing this, follow them on Twitter, but also you can also message me directly, because I actually do have Fringe of Colour have like free vouchers for Cutie Pock shows. So if anyone's Cutie Pock and they're listening and they're heading to Fringe, please contact Fringe of Colour, or you can hit me up as well on social media.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's a good scheme that they're doing.
Some good
Friggin'
stuff
great.
happening to help, isn't there?
It feels like Fringe is getting there, and it's getting more inclusive and is getting more, I don't want to say woke, but you know. But also, it's all just artists doing it themselves for free.
Yeah.
So like, it's great that all these things are happening, but they're all happening because we've all been there and it's been shit, and we've needed to set it up for ourselves because there is no systematic support.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where I'm like, it's really great that all this is happening.
We
but
can
it's
all
really
pat ourselves
annoying
on the back.
that
Yes.
it has to happen.
The fact that it all has to be bloody crowdfunded, and it's all the artists donating to each other's crowdfund is just like...
That face. Yeah.
You know, people constantly talking about how they can be better allies. It's like... Hi.
I know.
Yeah.
So, as we end every episode of the podcast, we talk about our feminist faves. So it could be people, things, art, sports that are inspiring you. Do you have any that you would like to share?
I will go.
Okay.
My feminist fave this month is my friend Bethany Rutter, who is an incredible fat activist and designer. And her debut novel comes out next week called No Big Deal, which is all about, it's a young adult book with a fat female lead, and it is going to be amazing, and it's going to be my Fringe read for when I'm not on stage or flyering. I'm going to be sat chilling reading that book because it looks bloody fantastic.
Oh, amazing.
So that is my feminist fave this month.
Thank you. Beth, do you have one?
Yeah, my feminist fave for this month is a friend of mine, Cerys Bradley. They are bringing a show up to Fringe, but this is not a theatre plug, this is a podcast plug, because it's feminist faves, so it's not about the show. They have a show going up to the Fringe called the Unfortunate Bisexual, but they also have a podcast called The Coming Out Tapes, and that is where they interview people about their coming out stories, and what coming out means to them, and they have lots of really interesting guests on. I recorded an episode with myself on it again the other day, and it was really nice because it felt like a very chilled out conversation, not one where I had to sort of go into any kind of like trauma or anything like that. It was just very like, they made me feel very relaxed. Because even though we have our own podcast, it still is a nerve-wracking experience going on someone else's podcast. So I did that the other day, and it was really awesome. So I wanted to shout them out and tell everyone that they should listen to their podcast, The Coming Out Tapes.
That sounds really cool. I will listen to that.
They're also a stand-up comic, so they're a very funny person, and they let me come on one of the stand-up comic courses that they were running at a London business school, and I was like in a room with loads of business students, like, I'm going to try and tell some jokes. So they're just a really great person.
Micah, do you have one?
I do. I just had to Google it again, but it's here. I started reading, I was in New York recently, and I went to a bookshop, and I saw this book, and it's called Kings, Queens and Inbetweens. And it's a young adult novel, and it's by a queer black woman, and her name is Tanya Boteju. I may have pronounced that incorrectly, but it's the story, the central character is a queer black woman, and I've never like seen anything like it. I've never like seen a book that is centering like queer POC. So if you get a chance to pick it up, you should pick it up and give it a read, because it's really great.
Cool, that sounds great.
That does sound really good.
Is it available for sale in the UK?
You know what? I think, I could just quickly...
Hit up goes the word.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully.
Category is.
Yeah.
So I really want to do a little day trip to Glasgow.
It is available. I mean, Amazon has come up. Yeah. It is
So we can
available.
find it.
Yes.
Oh, amazing. Great.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's available for more ethical book sailors also.
Yeah. When it pops up as Amazon, I'm like...
We always put a link, and I'm like, always, whenever a book is mentioned, I'm like trying to find someone else that's selling it that's not Amazon to post the link, but we will do that.
Well, I will shout out Abe Books, because they're great. Abe, ABE Books.
Oh, yeah.
They do like loads of books for cheap, like Amazon, but not Amazon. And they do loads of like academia as well, that you normally have to like be a student for. My feminist fave is Drag SOS, I think it's Channel 4 show,
It's so good.
which is happening like every Tuesday evening. I don't actually know how many episodes there are. I'm not completely up to date, but it is basically where the family Gorgeous, who are a drag family in Manchester, travel around the UK in this amazing big queer bus, all in drag, it seems. They just constantly travel in drag. And they find people in all these like kind of small towns mainly, who need a bit of fabulous, need a bit of gorgeous in their life, headed by Cheddar Gorgeous. And they just basically find people and introduce them to what drag can be, help them with the drag makeover we've always dreamed of. And then they do a show at the end of it, and it's like through the process of a week. And the stories that you see of people are just so incredible. It's like the perfect antidote to Queer Eye, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Especially it being like on like homegrown soil. It's like beautiful and affirming and sad, and just amazing. I highly recommend.
Is it just Queens?
It is just Queens because that's the family. But they're not cis queens.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's just because that's the family.
Okay. Fine. I'll watch it anyway.
Yeah. But
means the family Jules could do our own version of King.
exactly, there's a ribbon for it.
Did?
They're doing the
Channel 4?
they're doing the test run, and then
Okay. Cool.
yes. And Micah, I know you have something that you would like to shout out.
Yes, I do. So currently I'm trying to raise money for top surgery. The NHS is trash. So yeah, I'm trying to go private. I have a GoFundMe page. It is, you can find the link on my Instagram. My Instagram is Mika Johnson.artist. It's also on my Twitter. If you can donate, that would be amazing. If not, no problem. I'd really appreciate it if people could maybe share the link. That would be amazing. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we will post the link on the
Everything.
podcast notes as well. Yeah, and on all our social media. So it will be very easy to find for all of you to share and donate.
Yay!
Spray paint it all around Edinburgh.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
There's something there.
Get that link up there, yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Remind us where to see your shows.
We are at Assembly Roxy downstairs at 3:45. We alternate days. I start on the 31st of July. Mike starts on the 1st of August.
That's right, yeah.
Amazing. Yay! We'll see you there.
See you there. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much to Teddy and Mika for joining us for this episode.
What a pair of babes.
What a pair. It's so great talking to them because they just, you know, as we kind of covered in the episode, like they have, yes, they're represented by the same people, yes, parts of their experiences may be seen as similar, but two completely different shows, and it's so nice getting the chance to talk to two artists about two different pieces of work within, like, the same kind of space.
And it's also really nice to see artists supporting each other.
Yeah, you could really feel their friendship,
Yeah.
which is so nice.
Lovely.
Yeah. So, as per usual, we are going to have our recommends. So, these shows are the ones that we're looking out for at the Edinburgh Fringe. So, first up is Burgers with a Z at the Traverse Theatre. I never know how you pronounce that. Traverse?
Traverse. In my head I said Traverse, but I don't know.
Some people might say Traverse, I think. Because if you have a theatre stage, you say Traverse.
Yeah, you do say Traverse.
Interesting. Any grammar nerds out there, please let us know. So, Burgers, which can be described as, after someone threw a burger at them and shouted a transphobic slur, performance artist Travis Alabanza, who we've spoken about on the podcast, became obsessed with burgers. This show is the climax of their obsession, exploring how trans bodies survive and how, by them reclaiming an act of violence, we can address our own complicity. We have fallen in love with Travis's work, from their phenomenal performance in 2018's Jubilee, I love Jubilee so much, to they did a really great kind of dialogue on intimacy and loneliness at I Tried to Fuck Up the System, but none of my friends texted back, which I saw at Sick of the Fringe and was so fucking beautiful and moving, and I highly recommend the chance to see it. So we can't wait until we get to see Travis's show. It's going to be so good. I'm so excited to see them in all their Fringe glory. And also, Burgers is going on tour post-Fringe, so you can head to their website to find out their European tour dates.
Woo! Splintered at Bedlam Theatre is a brand new cabaret theatre show from Lagahoo, led by, Emily Aboud, who we mentioned earlier in the episode, who directed Mika's show. It's also created this show of her own. So Splintered is based on interviews with women in Trinidad and Tobago and devised with a team of actors. Expect lip sync, drag, carnival, and a show unlike anything to ever grace Edinburgh Fringe. This is a show about Caribbean people being queer and their experience. Splintered is, I think it's going to be great. It's got a great cast as well as a great director, creator. It's based on real experiences.
Definitely something I've never seen before at the Fringe.
Exactly, like 100%.
So, yeah.
It's going to be good. It's on at Bedlam at 9:30, so it's a
Evening cabaret.
Evening cabaret.
Can't wait. But like a cabaret that we're not used to because it infuses like carnival and stuff. So yeah, can't wait.
And reality.
Yeah. Butch Princessa is at the Spiegel Yacht at 6:20 p.m. Expect character comedy, dance, and Latin beats to guide you through a deep, surreal, queer immigrant wonderland. Sharp-suited, and she is very sharp-suited because if you've seen our blog, she is the cover photo of our blog. Sharp-suited feminist dream clown Andrea Spisto promises you an unflinchingly emotional art explosion. And in her previous Fringe show, if her previous Fringe show was anything to go by, Miss Venezuela, which we saw last year, and we only saw it once, and we saw it quite early on off of Jonas Starry's recommendation from Fuck You Pay Me. But oh my god, I could go and watch that show so many times, and it would be different every night. And it was fucking hilarious and incredible, and it was the free Fringe. And it's the same this year with Butch Princessa. So go, give her your money. She fucking deserves it. It was brilliant. This will be like the sexiest intersectional comedy art show you could probably ever imagine. So we highly recommend Butch Princessa. It will be on again at 6:20.
Cactus at Barbados at 8:15 in the evening. This is a show from award-winning spoken word artist Jemima Foxtrot. It features new poems and songs exploring what it means to put your life into your art. Jemima is an amazing poet. She is a little ray of sunshine to cut through the grey, rainy Edinburgh days. She specialises in writing about finding excitement in the smallest things in everyday life. She has a poem about our new Prime Minister.
Oh.
Yeah, it's, I can't remember the name for it, but it's a poem where you only use one vowel sound throughout the whole poem. So she never says his full name, she just says Boteju.
Yeah.
But like it's
Everything's O.
Everything is O. Yeah, every
how
vowel
funny.
in the whole poem is O.
Whoa.
Whoa, Bojo. Oh no. Etc.
Oh, great, cool. Never heard of that before.
It's really cool. I hope it's in the show.
Fatty Fat Fat is at the Pleasance Courtyard at 3:15. We saw Fatty Fat Fat in its first round of previews at Volt, which is by the wonderful Katie Greenall. And I feel like it was a done deal. It was it was like a done, finished, polished show at that point. And I'm not just saying that because we got Chris. Halfway through the show.
Yeah, I enjoyed
it was amazing. No, it was really, really beautiful. It's autobiographical. It kind of weaves Katie's life in with, she's a spoken word artist as well, so she brings that in. Like, really important show. They've been fundraising for it as well, and like they've just reached their fundraising target, which I think was like $5,000. So the fact that there's like so many people backing the show getting to the Edinburgh Fringe shows how much like thirst there is for it as audiences, how much people respect the show, and how much it is about celebrating and, you know, challenging the idea of living in a body the world tells you you're supposed to hate. So leave your diet books at the door, is what they say. That's Fatty Fat Fat at the Pleasant Courtyard at 3:15.
Who Cares is at Summerhall at 6:20. This is Lung Theatre Company, who are well known for their plays which address social and political issues with communities, by communities and for communities. And so they use real life testimonies and adapt them into shows. And their latest kind of social issue that they're addressing is the care system. So the impact of austerity, what happens when children become carers and have to be more like parents. I think that's going to be good. They always have like a strong political message as well as solid artistic background because they're quite well established. And we saw their show last year and it was really good. The same company, different show, but
yeah,
really
I think they've done it before, right? Because I feel like I've heard about this show and it being good. So
Who Cares at Summerhall 6:15.
I Am Dram is also at the Pleasance Courtyard, which is at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. Writer-performer Hannah Maxwell stepful changes between suburb and city, revealing her familial legacy. This queer London live artist type hails from 4 generations of leading ladies. So basically, Hannah comes from this long dynasty of women playing the leading role in the local Amdram, in the local dramatic society. Welyn Thalian's musical and dramatic society. So Hannah's debut show is not quite Gilbert and Sullivan, however, but the learned urban lesbian does her family proud, regaling us with hilarious tales from her performance history with a warmth and affection. While not uncritical of her hometown, left both of us, because we saw it at CPT last year.
Yeah, when it was like a kind of work in progress.
Yeah, and it was so bloody adorable. And like,
I loved it.
Beth loved it, I loved it. Hannah kind of takes us into this world of Dram theatre with so much like love for it, which is so lovely to see. And she kind of talks about how she moved up to London and started exploring like live art and like experimental theatre in London and being all political, but like her heart and soul and her family came from this background in Dram. And she talks about going back to shows there and also exploring her own queerness and how does that relate to the roles that she wants to play in Dram, and how does that affect the relationship with her family and their legacy within Dram in that community. So it's fucking great. I love it. I can't wait to see like the latest update of this because it was fucking brilliant when we saw it back then. So
And she tap dances.
It's great. So we highly recommend I Am Dram at Pleasance Courtyard, 2 p.m.
Sophie Duker, Venus. We have been waiting so long for Sophie Duker to do her full-length debut solo show at the Fringe. We've been a fan of hers since 2016.
Yeah.
We first saw her at the Fringe and just fell in love.
Yeah.
Sophie Duker's show, Venus. Sophie's your Venus, your fire, your desire, or is she? She is an absolute fave, and she hosts the Wacky Racist comedy night, if you've ever been to that before. She's been on loads of mainstream telly, mainstream like radio, podcasts and everything. She's definitely like built this huge name for herself, and we're proper hyped to see her show. Full Fat Woke debut hour, Venus. Sexy, savage stand-up from a girl who's definitely not a goddess.
Oh my god, I cannot wait. I've loved like every bit of comedy I've seen Sophie do. Yeah.
We're
Venus.
such fans.
I know, such fans. Also, just want to say, Wacky Racist, not a night for racists.
Yeah, not
For anti-racists.
not for racists, sort of like an antidote.
Yes.
Yeah.
Neither Here Nor There is on at Summer Hall, 7:15 p.m. It's not there for the full Fringe, it's there from the 15th to 25th. I've heard a lot about the show. I've heard it through word of mouth, not seen it personally, or know the company at all, or anything like that. But it's kind of like an exploration of being middle-aged. It's created by Sonia and Joe, who host a series of 6-minute conversations about kind of like the big stuff, big questions, but also like the small stuff, about the state of your garden, and it's supposed to be really, really intimate and about kind of communities and sharing amongst communities. There's also, I've been told, there's like some walking in it, so I think it kind of becomes a bit promenade-y. Basically, I really want to go see this one, and I don't know much about the company, so I can't give you a whole lot, but I just know that it's really supposed to be one to watch. It is an hour and a half, so we'll tell you that now. And the creators of the show, Sonia and Joe, are both award-winning and international, yet provincial artists. So it sounds really fucking great.
Is it participatory? Do you think?
I think it might be.
I think from what I saw, we've just watched a little trailer of it, seemed like the audience are sort of involved in the conversations.
Yeah.
And it's less of like a formal theatre piece and more of like an engagement piece.
That's what I think has drawn me to it and what I think it is. But again, we haven't seen it, so we'd love to go see it.
Great. My Father, the Tantric Masseur, Assembly George Square Studios, 10:10 in the evening. Roanne McCloskey is a post-#MeToo queer British Algerian woman on a journey of excruciating self-discovery between a reserved English father turned tantric masseur and a Muslim mother who insists on open dialogue. She promises to have us laughing, crying and pondering the name you've given your genitals. And it is called My Father, the Tantric Masseur, but we have been very much assured that it is not all about my father or her father.
Yeah.
It's about all of the other things as well. So yeah, we're really excited to see this one. We've heard great things. We've been meaning to see it for a long time, and we're super hyped to see it at Fringe. Assembly,
Not gonna lie, I am intrigued about her dad.
About her dad, yeah. I mean, it's not on brand for Bechdel, but we really want to know about the dad.
Yeah.
So, My Father, the Tantric Masseur, Assembly George Square, 10:10.
Oh, I love a late show. That's the latest one we've had so far in here, isn't it?
Yeah, late comedy.
Yeah. Parakeet is at the Roundabout at Summer Hall at 5:05. I love these ones at like 10:10, 5:05. Really easy to remember for us.
I also really love the Roundabout.
Yeah, I love the Roundabout so much.
Such a
Really
good
looking
venue.
forward to this. There's quite a few things in the Roundabout this year, as there always is. But Parakeet is the new musical from Brigitte Aphrodite, who is the maker behind My Beautiful Black Dog, which came out a few years ago and kind of fused kind of like gig theatre music with performance art and spoken word, and is about finding your flock and ruffling your feathers. So in Margate, an isolated teenager forms a band and finds her voice with the help of a gang of parakeets. This show promises to introduce audiences to the new spirit of punk with empathy, which sounds like the movement the world needs right now. Am I right in thinking it's with young people?
Yeah, so they've got like a cast of.
So Brigitte's worked with.
So it's
with young
it's
people.
Brigitte and a cast.
Yeah.
So it's not like Beautiful Black Dog was Brigitte and her partner. So it's not just like a kind of here's my story solo autobiographical show. It's like a show with a full cast.
Yeah.
With big music.
Great.
And the costumes have all been sourced from abandoned clothes. So they've worked with Trade, the like clothing repurposing company, and they have created all their costumes and props and things from like recycled stuff, essentially.
Amazing.
To be more sustainable.
That's such
which
a
is
good
awesome.
idea. More
Also, you'll be able to spot them around town because I think Brigitte and maybe some other people involved in the show have dyed their hair bright green.
Amazing.
Like
I haven't
parakeets.
seen that.
So yeah.
Cool.
Fix Us is at Underbelly Cowgate at 12:20. Bareface Collective are Lee, Zara and Kirsty. Lee has autism, Zara has Child syndrome and Kirsty has cerebral palsy. 3 wild, wicked and wonderful individuals whose real life inner anxieties clash with their flamboyant alter egos. Bareface are not only putting disabled voices centre stage with their new show, but they're also using social media to share access information for audience members across the festival. So we really recommend not only going to see their show, but giving them a follow on Twitter. Yeah, they sound like an awesome company. I've been seeing their work on social media. It's amazing. Everything I'm hearing about this show from the previews they've done sounds awesome. So go and see it. So Fix Us is on at Underbelly Cowgate, 12:20 every day.
Nightclubbing and Out are both at the Summer Hall, 3:45, so another double bill there. So for the first half of the month, Rachel Young, who is behind both of these shows, is doing her badass show, which is a band of superhumans embrace Afrofuturism, which we've spoken about before, and the cult of Grace Jones in That's Nightclubbing, which we've heard so much about and literally never been able to see. So we're so excited to get the chance to see it in Edinburgh. So Nightclubbing is on until the 11th, and then from the second half of the month, from the 13th, she will be joined by another performer who is a non-binary dancer / choreographer called Mariki's Cry 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 to perform Out, which I've seen a version of before in Brighton at the Marlborough Theatre, which is a dance piece challenging homophobia and transphobia, reclaiming dancehall and celebrating Vogue culture. It's really, really, really great and really, really funny. I'm always so impressed by dancers who can do an hour show. So catch both of those at Summer Hall at 3:45 at different times in the Fringe. And that's how people are doing their own shit with their shows and not keeping the whole run, so look after.
It's really nice to see half the run of this, and then if you liked that, then you can come back and see Out. If you like nightclubbing, you can go see Out. If you go and see one of the Queer House shows, you can go and see another one. If you like Since You've Been Gone, you can go and see Pink Lemonade, etc., etc. It's really nice to see artists just sharing and supporting and giving audiences clues as to other shows they can go and see. I think one of the best Fringe traditions is at the end of the shows where people shout out their friends' shows or shows that they've seen that they really liked or think you should go and see.
I love that so
I think
much.
that's awesome.
It's definitely one of the best ways to hear about work, I think.
For sure.
So that's us for this episode.
That's us.
So we hope that you enjoyed the episode. The interview was amazing. We've had loads of shows that we just recommended to you. But of course, if you aren't in Edinburgh, please check out what is on for you locally as well. If you're in London, there is also Camden Fringe, which is on at Camden People's Theatre, which we know has got some amazing artists. Please go and support them. Not everything happens in Edinburgh and the whole of the UK, but there is a lot that goes on there, which is why we talk about it so much in August. So we will hopefully see you there, or if not, we will see you back in London. And we will have some more interviews coming for you in the next episode, and we'll tell you about some stuff we've seen as well. That's us.